Hello. My name is Amina, and I am doing this video because I think there are people out there who may be going through something like this, and maybe they need encouragement, or maybe you need, um, I don't know, just something like somebody who's probably going through something similar as you. Um, I'm 38 years old and I got married um, in February of 2016. I was married for about 7 months. However, I was with my husband for 17 years. Um, we had our relationship, like, my husband was my best friend. Um, we enjoyed a lot of the same things. We, I could honestly say, like, we got upset. We used to argue. We used to, get upset with each other and just things that normal couples do. Um, but we never stayed upset with each other for more than 30, 45 minutes. Like, we never did. Um, you know, in in the beginning it was really rough for us. I would say like the first 6 years of our relationship was very difficult. And as a woman, you make your demands. You know you're a good woman, you make your demands. Um, and if the person is smart enough, if you're a good person, if you're a good woman, they are going to make all provisions to make sure and keep you, um, to keep you happy. Anyway, so yeah, we had a lot of, in the beginning, we had a lot of issues. We had, but we seemed to work it out. Um, just when we were trying to make, like we were at that time in our life where, we were getting things together, like really getting things together, making plans. Well, we had always made plans, but like seeing those plans come to fruition, my husband started getting really bad headaches. This was like the summer of 2015. Um, we're Trini, so we love to play mass. For those of you who don't know, that's carnival. But this time we were getting ready to do it in New York. And we took a trip to New York in July, early August of 2015. And he would start getting these headaches. And one thing with my husband is that he never got headaches. Like, he never really got sick like that. He never got sick, but he just, I don't know, he never really got sick. So he would start getting these headaches. They would come and go, come and go. And we got back from New York to because we went up there to put the down payment on our costumes or whatever, and just to see family. We came back, and we had an alarm system in the house, and I would get these notifications on my phone that the alarm, somebody came inside of the house. Now, my husband worked for an airline, and at that time he was supposed to be at work. So I would call and I would be like, "Baby, are you home?" And he would be like, "Yeah, I'm home." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Well, they sent me home because I almost passed out on the tarmac, and it's just these headaches." So we went to a chiropractor one day. This was August 2015. Went to a chiropractor, and um, the chiropractor kind of like, you know, um, I guess cracked his neck or whatever the case may be, like along the side here, and he started feeling okay. And when we got home, like before we got home, he was like, "Oh, I feel so good. I feel good, you know." And we were taking clothes out of the laundry basket, out of taking the laundry basket out of the car, and all I heard him say was, "Uh-oh." And I'm like, "What happened?" He's like, "Yo, that pain coming back again." And so I was like, something is wrong. Something's wrong. I was like, babe, listen, you need to really go see a doctor. So we went to this Jamaican doctor, who really deals with sports medicine. So he asked my husband a series of questions. How do you feel? Yada, 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 this and that, this and that. My husband, just the normal way that a doctor would ask. And my husband um, was answering the questions to the best of his ability, but he was just more so concerned with the headaches. So um, the doctor was like, just to be sure, I'm going to do some blood work. Um, so he did some blood work, did blood work, and I called for the blood work. And, I was allowed to give it over the phone. They gave it to me over the phone, funny enough. She had me verify some information, and no, they weren't supposed to do that, but they ended up doing it anyway. And she was like, the doctor was like, we need you guys to come in. So we came in, and he was like, your white blood cell count is a concern of mine. It was elevated, because when your white blood cell count is elevated, that means infection. Your body's trying to fight off something. So I panicked, and I was like, okay. So when we went to the chiropractor before this doctor, and she kind of cracked my husband's back, I'll never forget. He threw up, but it was like really thick green chunks. That when in my mind I was like, something's not right. And so afterwards, um, afterwards we went to the hospital. My husband just was really weak, and it was just getting worse. It was getting worse. So I'll never forget. I had to hold him up. I'm 4'11". Okay, my husband wasn't tall. He was about 5'8" and very slim. He was about 120 pounds. No, I'm lying. Like maybe 135. He was slim. My husband was slim. He was naturally slim. And so we went into the hospital, and the doctor was asking for us to, for my husband to fill out the paperwork and to describe the symptoms. They had us mask up because they thought from the symptoms that it was meningitis. Well, I wish that it was meningitis, but it was funny because his mother was here visiting from Trinidad, so she happened to have been here. This was August 27, 2015. And he did some blood work, and I guess did some x-rays of my husband. He came in, I'll never forget. We were all sitting down laughing because they had given my husband some pain medication for his pain. And we were all laughing. It was me, it was his brother, his mom, my husband, and myself. We were sitting down laughing, talking about situations and whatever. The doctor comes in, and the doctor's like, we have to admit you because you got, from the x-ray, you've got this really big mass on the back of your head. Everything dropped. Everybody. The atmosphere in the room just dropped. The So we went back, and they admitted him to the hospital. They started running tests. They started, from the tumor in his brain, um, a neurologist came in, and they started to, have him to cover his eyes, see if he could see from his peripheral vision. From his peripheral, and he was like, no, he couldn't really see. Well, of course, it's because the tumor that was sitting on his head was control the part of his brain that is responsible for vision. So they went ahead, they did all these tests, they did this, they did that, and they wanted to go ahead and do a surgery. They had to do surgery because they had to find out. Well, first of all, they had to remove the tumor because it would eventually make him blind and eventually end up killing him. So, September 1st, 2015, they did the surgery. And I'll never forget, his mother and I were sitting in the waiting room waiting for the surgery to be over, and a doctor comes in and she says, that they lost electricity and the power went out, but the operation is going fine and whatever. So it took like 3 hours for them to come, and then the doctor came in after the surgery was over, and the doctor came in and he was like, um yeah, the good news is that the surgery went very well and your husband's doing really well, but the tumor is malignant. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, benign, malignant. I was like, malignant. I was like, you mean malignant being cancerous? And he was like, yeah, it's malignant. So we're like, what kind of cancer is it? And then he's like, well, we won't know for about 6 to 8 weeks until the pathology report comes back. Um, so, I saw my husband after they did the surgery and everything. I went up and I saw my husband, and when he came to out of the, you know, when they have you knocked out, he came out, and I saw his face, and I was like, you're so beautiful. And he was looking at me and looking up at the machine and looking at my face and looking at the machine. It's like, am I okay? Just like a baby, a baby. It's like, yeah, baby, you're fine. You're fine. He didn't know he had cancer, but it's like, yeah, baby, you're fine. You're fine. Guys, I can't tell you, the hardest thing is when you're in that hospital and you're waiting for the doctors to make that round or make their rounds. And you see them, that curtain, you see those black boots. The most frightening thing. So all of us are sitting in the room. This is after the surgery or whatever, and I'm talking to his mom. I'm like, look, somebody has to tell him that he has this. I don't have the courage to tell him this. So the doctor just said, listen, doctors came in and they were like, do you have a history of lung cancer? Do you have a history of cancer? And he's like, no. So finally, they started doing more tests. They couldn't find anything else in his body, just that tumor. But they did a deeper scan and they found the tumor on the lung. Finally, when the pathology report came back, they found out that it was lung cancer. And it was at that point, it was already stage 4. And I'm gonna tell you something from the caregiver's perspective. Anybody who is going through this, stay in and fight. Stay in and be there for that person. Stay there and be there for your loved one. Because it is hard. It is hard. It is hard. It is hard. My husband had very long dreadlocks. He was a Rastafarian and he took that to heart. And when they had to do the cyberknife radiation to his head, it wasn't a chemo that took out his hair, it was the radiation. And I'll never forget having to cut his hair because for so long he walked around with this big patch. He just didn't want to let the dreadlocks go, and I told him, I was like, baby, you have to let it go, and just cut off everything. And I started shaving it off and looked at his bald head, and I was like, you got a cute head, So the doctors put him on Tarceva, and that didn't work. And then they put him on carboplatin and Alimta. And then after carboplatin and Limta, they put him on Opdivo. And I saw my husband go from being 130 pounds to being about 80 pounds. And I was so alone. I was so alone. His mother went back to Trinidad. You know, just being at work and looking at the doctors. Just looking at the doctor's phone number come up on my screen and knowing that I have to answer this phone call because my husband didn't want to take any phone calls. You know, just seeing somebody go from being a lively person and just having so much energy. It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing. And, you know, I asked his doctor who was working on a medical oncologist, and I was like, I asked his medical oncologist, I asked her, I was like, you know, look, just be honest with me. You know, like, what's the prognosis? And, you know, she told me, she was like, the prognosis is very poor. The prognosis is very poor. I didn't even tell my husband that at that point because he just started getting so angry, you know. I'll do more of a video later on, but to get into the meat of it. But that's not really what this is about. My husband passed away October 8th, 2016. He fought it for a little over a year. And it was so, that man loved me so much. You know, I graduated from college March of 2016, but my graduation was September 2016. And it was just so hard for me because my father and I were really, really very close. And my father had a heart attack August of 2016, and he passed away August 22nd, 2016. My husband passed away October 8th, 2016. So first my dad passed away, then I did my graduation, and I'll never forget my husband sitting up in the stands while I'm walking across the stage trying to just receiving my degree. He wanted to see that so bad because he knew how hard I worked for it, you know. And after the after my graduation, my husband passed away. Less than about maybe a little less than 3 weeks later, he passed away. And I saw his body being cremated. You know, I had to make the arrangements. I'll never forget that night he was in the hospital. Um, he was coherent. He knew, you know, he knew he was going, but he knew exactly when he needed his medication. He would look up at the clock and he, you know. And so here I am 2 years later. I'm 38 years old. I'm widowed. I'm 38. And there's a lot more to this story. A lot more to this story. But for anybody who is fighting this thing, and anybody who is a caregiver and going through this with their loved one, just know that there are only two ways out. We have to be real about this. Either the person is going to beat it or they're not. Either they are going to triumph with life or they will triumph with transition. There's no two ways about it. I think the most important thing is support. Support for the caregiver and support for the person going through it. Because my husband and we didn't have it. And I will say, if it was not for my mother in particular, and another dear friend who I will talk about later, I don't know how I would have gotten through what I got through. Like I said, there's more to the story, but this part of the story, this journey right here, to anybody going through this, it isn't easy, it is rough. And it's just like cancer, no matter what it is, breast, colon, lung, bone, ovarian, uterine, prostate, liver, stomach, whatever it is, this thing is rearing its ugly head, and it is coming like a thief in the night. Everybody is turning up with cancer. And, you know, I don't know, but there's more to the story that I will tell. There's more to it. I'm new to this YouTube thing, doing these videos, and I just want to be a catalyst for anybody who's going through this, anybody who has lost someone to cancer, anybody who is young and widowed. It could be from cancer, it could be from anything. And anybody who knows of someone who's going through chemo, a cancer diagnosis, or anything traumatic like that, support. Support for the person going through it is very important, and support for the caregiver is very important. You don't know what an asset you'll be. You can be the difference between someone's life and someone's death. Trust me. Anyway, leave any comments. I will do another video and I will go more in detail. Hopefully you will leave some comments. Hopefully you will share this video. That's a piece of my truth. Lung cancer is a cancer that kills more people than all cancers combined. It is the least researched, and it is typically found, just as it was with my husband, it is typically found when it is already at stage 4. Less than 5% of people diagnosed, I believe it's 5 or 1% of people diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer actually make it past, I believe it's the 5-year mark. Some of the statistics are skewed, but survival rates for people with stage 4 lung cancer are slim to none. Slim to none. My husband took 3 different drugs and they did not work for him. The 8th of this month made it 2 years since he transitioned, and you know, there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss my baby. But to anybody who is fighting that disease, you gotta stay in and fight. You cannot give up. When it was said and done, my husband had it in the brain. It went to the lymph nodes, the adrenal gland, the liver, the kidney. He had a spot on his stomach, one on his back, the neck. It was all over his body. It metastasized everywhere. It went back to his brain again after they did the tumor resection. They found it again in the brain. And he was a smoker. Um, he was a smoker, but my husband was a closet smoker, which I knew. He think I didn't know, but I knew. I tried everything. I tried Nicorette. I tried cussing him. I tried, but just didn't pan out. So again, to anybody fighting the disease, anybody fighting the lung cancer, you'll get through it. Whatever way you have to stay in and fight, you better fight. You better fight. Please share this video to all of the young widows out there. Just doesn't get easier. Nobody will replace your beloved. Nobody. But anyway, guys, please share this video. Leave your comments. If you have a story, I would love to hear your story. Love and light.